Hi, this is Tim Noonan. Since 2012, the area between Kettering University and downtown Flint has undergone a radical and very positive transformation, a result of a unique coalition between the university, its students, and civic partners like Carriagetown Ministries and Hurley Hospital. Today I'm talking with Jack Stock, Kettering's Director of External Relations, some Kettering students, and representatives from the community who are talking about this extraordinary community revitalization project. Thank you very much for joining us, and thank you all from the university, from the community, students, Dallas from Carriagetown Ministries, to talk about the revitalization of Flint and the coalition that came together. I'm Tim Noonan, and we have a number of people here to talk about this today. I'm going to turn it over to Jack Stock from the university to tell us a little bit more about this topic, about the University Avenue Corridor Coalition and what has happened over the last 8 years, and to have everybody introduce themselves as well. So Jack, take it away. Thank you.
Well, thanks, Tim, and it's a delight to be here. And I'll just introduce our starring cast here. And below you'll see a picture of Eric Sapansky, who's on the technical end of things. So if we have any issues, we can always talk with Eric about it. But I'd like to start with our students. And Chelsea, if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself.
Yeah, of course. Thanks, Jack and Tim. So I'm Chelsea Wright. I am a senior 1 student studying industrial engineering with a minor in statistics at Kettering. And in the future, I'll be co-oping at HP and Microsoft.
Awesome. Jeremiah?
All right. Thank you, Mr. Jack. Thank you, Mr. Tim. Thanks for including me. Hi, everyone. My name is Jeremiah Thompson. I'm currently a junior 1. I'm studying industrial engineering and computer science as a dual degree student, and I'm currently co-oping at American Axle.
Great. And Frederick Jones, would you mind?
Yes, I am Frederick Jones. I'm just a humble resident here of 28 years, and I'm just here to stand with everyone that's here so we can make this community better.
Delighted you're here, Frederick. And last but not least, Dallas Gatlin, if you don't mind telling us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, I'm Dallas Gatlin. I'm the executive director at Carriagetown Ministries, a homeless shelter along the University Avenue corridor. We've been in existence for 70 years, and we're just happy to be a part of a coalition that's dedicated to making nice neighborhoods connected together to make a great community.
Well, thanks all. And Tim, if I may, I'd like to just start out by saying, why are we here? It was 8 years ago that Dr. McMahon started at Kettering University. He said, let's bring our community together and get talking to one another. And we started this organization 8 years ago through the Department of Justice mini grant that we got. And they brought in some folks to just talk with the community, Kettering included, on Kettering's campus, about what can we do when a city such as Flint in the Rust Belt, losing population, a tax base that's suffering, can barely do the policing, let alone the trash pickup, the zone enforcement that needs to happen. What can we do as a community ourselves to make the corridor, and we call this area around the university campus the corridor, from U of M Flint to McLaren Hospital in the west, to Hurley Hospital in the north, and to the Flint River and Powers Catholic High School in the south. What could we do as citizens just to make this place a better area? And we came up with and founded the University Avenue Corridor Coalition. And our mission was to make the University Avenue Corridor an attractive and a crime-free community that's conducive to sustainable development. And we said, you know what, folks, let's come up with some priorities. And those priorities included education, recreational activities, health and safety, and these sorts of items that we felt important to surround our activities around. And at the same time, as a part of the original 20 individuals and organizations that were part of it, was Dallas Gatlin from Carriagetown Ministries. And I'm just going to segue to Dallas here. If he could help explain, because in my feeble attempts, Dallas can put in better terms why it is we decided to have this coalition. its focus and what he's seen over the last 8 years and over the time that he's had at Carriagetown Ministries, our dear neighbor down the street. Dallas, I'll turn it over to you. Can you add a little bit to that?
Yeah, I'll just say this: that you piqued a couple thoughts in your discussion there, Jack. And one is that anybody in life, a group of people, like a city like Flint, for example, or a university or a homeless shelter, can find themselves in a circumstance and say, well, this is good enough for us. Or you can figure out what your skills are, what your abilities are, and just by force of will say, we're going to be something better, right? And at the beginning of the University Avenue Corridor Coalition, Kettering, if you imagine them like the spokes on an old wagon wheel, they're at the center, and they went out looking for people who were creating little fires of positivity in the area and invited them to come to a first session. I think it was 2012. Jack, is that right?
That's correct. October.
Many of us came, and we found that there are other people who are excited about this like we are. Neighbors like Fred and Odette Jones, who were pioneers over 2 decades ago in doing this at their house and being a neighbor with neighbors. So Carriagetown Ministries in 2009, I made my career in the automotive industry as an executive and retired in 2009. And because I was not a good golfer, I decided to come to Carriagetown Ministries. And we decided to recreate the place and become a productive, redemptive community where when you wake up in the morning, the residents don't have to go, and we have men, women, and children. They don't have to leave and come back like strangers again at the end of the day. We decided to be salt and light for the neighborhood and figure out ways that we can do that.
And let me jump in here that you are, Carriagetown Ministries is one of a number of organizations along with Kettering and Hurley Hospital and other groups. Jack, maybe you can name a few. But one thing I want to outline for people who may be watching this is that you can imagine what Dallas was saying there, that a neighborhood that was maybe dirty, a lot of litter, now it's all clean, it's picked up. Well, in a way, that's what's happened in a macro level. There were burned out homes, crime-ridden corners, and now there are green spaces. It's beautiful, it's safe, and this is a big area, not a couple of houses. There's 150 or whatever it is. Jackie, you can tell us more. But what people need to understand is by working together with people like Carriagetown and Hurley and Kettering, this has expanded and totally transformed this neighborhood, first of all, to the eye, and then all these other things, education, safety, and so on. Is that not right, Jack?
That's a great point, Tim. And we base all of this on what we decided we would use as our going forward doing together, which is crime prevention through environmental design. We shortcut and say CEPTED. Crime prevention through environmental design is this concept that if there's a broken window, you fix it right away. If there's a light that's out, a street light or any other type, you light that light. You have clear lines of vision so that bad element doesn't want to be doing their thing and feeling like they're invited to do the nefarious acts. You keep your lawns up, you keep your sidewalk up, you work together to have neighborhoods and neighbors talking to neighbors. So this engaging the community together builds then a trust and a strength through crime prevention, through environmental design. We at Kettering then actually landed a grant that got us, I guess it was $1 million over 3 years to study the effects of what the University Avenue Corridor Coalition was doing, because we got a lot of attention at the immediate effects that we were having with the community. And this grant allowed us then to implement even more things, bring in more partners, and have an effect on the avenue. And yeah, Kettering's taken down over 80 homes that were abandoned and no longer recyclable. We had done a terrific job of being one of the largest landowners, they say, in Flint, because we worked with one of our partners, the land bank, Genesee County Land Bank, and said, hey, there's an abandoned lot that nobody's paying taxes on. We will take it over and we will maintain it, and we promise never to let it go back to some organization that's not going to be family friendly or something that we'd like to have in our community. And of course, that type of work paid great dividends and has allowed us to meet so many people out there in the community, and furthermore, get our students involved. And we'll get to this later, Tim, I know, when we have a chance to talk with our students here today, Jeremiah and Chelsea, about the power of using that example to support the mission of Kettering University. So having said that, it allowed us to meet people like Frederick Jones and bring Frederick into the fold of folks that are working hard together to make an impact in the community. And Frederick, what are your observations, for instance, over the time you've been here? I heard 28 years. Is that true? You must have been 10.
Well, no, I'm a little bit older, but you must remember, I retired from the military, in 1992. So I was in the military for almost 25 years. So I had been around just a little bit, but, just to reflect on a few good things that I've seen here. It's nothing wrong with just saying a simple hello or hi to people as they pass by. That's not done. We have gotten away from that as a people, or just simply to wave at someone and a simple smile.
So we've been saying hello for about, let me see, 8 years times 12 months, about 116 sessions, because we meet on a monthly basis. People like Fred from the community come to the University Avenue corridor monthly meetings, and there we just, like you said, Frederick, we just ask, what can and should we be doing? How can we as a group think about ways that we can make our community better? And it's been so effective.
Of course.
Let me jump in real quick and paint an additional picture. You mentioned the 80 properties and the green spaces that have bloomed. Obviously on Chevrolet Avenue, Chevy in the Hole, the old pad with the grass, that's a university project, but that's not there. It's a beautiful proving ground. Up at the entrance, there's an entranceway. And then going down the river, it's like a park all the way down now. And so there's this wonderful feeling that is there. And I think, and maybe this is the right time, Jack, to introduce our students, because a lot of the work, the elbow grease that has gone into the physical work, there's a lot of people that have done that, but a lot of it has been Kettering students. And Chelsea, you're the oldest, so we'll go with, as a senior, we'll let you go first. Tell us a little bit about your background in community service with Kettering, and specifically the coalition and anything related to this project.
Yeah, of course, sure. I'll go a bit further back to say that my heart has always been in like community service and like social impact, because I am the founder of a nonprofit back in Jamaica called Girls Who Know Jamaica. So it was just kind of like natural for me to kind of like assimilate into, just being a part of the community here. I think the experience I've had in like working with the community, it's been interesting, because Kettering students want to help. They don't want to like be in a bubble, which I feel like most people looking in kind of like think Kettering students or the Kettering campus kind of is sometimes, because we probably don't really interact. But I feel like from my experience, I've seen people, just really be willing to help. When I came in 2017 to the AIM program, we had experience kind of like, I think it was renovating or like helping to paint a house, just like a few blocks down from the campus. And then we went to like Mock Park and helped with like raking of leaves there. And that was just me, not even being an actual student at the school before. So when I was introduced to that, I was just like, yeah, this is somewhere where I'd want to be. And then just to fast forward to now, and like my experiences over the years, I've served as like the philanthropy chair for the Kettering student government, and I've been able to even like organize some of the drives that we've been able to have for period products and just like other products to donate to Carriagetown Ministries, and like just the food bank, like a plethora of like other places. So yeah, I say all of that to say that Kettering students have been pretty involved and are more than like always just willing to jump in and like be a part of the community and help and lend a hand.
And Jeremiah, you've also been involved. You were telling us about some of your work with some houses early on in your career going out, and also meeting some of the residents like Frederick in the neighborhood. Tell us little bit about your experience with this project.
Absolutely. So just even, slightly reflecting like Chelsea, growing up in the church, specifically Perfecting Church, we actually had a church actually out here in Flint. And I remember, actually, it's funny, this coalition started back in 2012. One of my first times coming to Flint was in 2012. And basically having a chance to be graced with meeting people just so early on. And then later, even meeting Chelsea back in AIM, we actually did a lot of those projects together. It's pretty amazing to see where Flint has come, especially having that early exposure way back when, and even, understanding what Kettering's philosophy is for their students, and with us being AIM students being asked to do community service, that speaks a lot to what types of students Kettering's trying to provide. They're trying to provide the ideal of potentially even a holistic engineer. And even referring to the bubble sometimes, I really try my best to stay outside of the bubble, because I feel like what happens sometimes is when we get into some of these social constructs, we sometimes forget to get out of our comfort zone. And, myself being affiliated with now the National Society of Black Engineers, and recently doing projects with them to try to engage with high school students. That's been one of the recent projects as well. And even just a couple of weeks ago, I was actually out there with Mr. Jack, and we were doing some improvements on one of the houses up the street as well. Just doing some work, maintaining the lawn, mowing down the tree, just making sure that it looked nice. And just to see that, just see work with other Kettering students, and even taking on some service projects of my own, it really does speak to the change and the mindset. I believe, it was Mr. Frederick that spoke about how even the simple things of like saying hello, I can genuinely say, being in Michigan now for a couple of years, like the dynamic that I see in Flint, Michigan is definitely one of the most unique and one of the most welcoming. I can genuinely say that. And, even coming to Kettering at first, it felt a little bit off, especially with the summer program. But as I got more and more involved with that culture, whether it's me going to the barber shop and wearing a Kettering hoodie or something like that, and seeing like, the brightness that I can see, speaking to some of the younger African-American students, and going to the store and just being able to say hi to people, it's really changed. And to see that from now a young age, now being, a 20-year-old, it's one of the probably the best parts that I've seen about this university.
Well, that brings up something that Dallas, you and I we were talking about last week. You were making the comment about, obviously, students like Chelsea and Jeremiah and others are making a big impact in Flint, but you were talking about that in a broader, longer issue about how that would play out over people's lives and what the impacts of just this single program might be. Can you tell us a little bit more about your thoughts on that?
Well, just thinking about like my career in industry, I met the people who I respected the most, the leaders, the plant manager types. I was in the manufacturing world. They understood community. And as we get to know Jeremiah and Chelsea a little bit, like if I was a betting man, I would bet that these folks are going to be CEOs real soon, somewhere down the line, or entrepreneurs that are involved with their communities. And they're already doing that. Part of that is Kettering creating opportunities. But these two would have found those opportunities somewhere. Fortunately for them, they landed at a great institution like Kettering that had opportunities and facilitated that. They're going to carry that with them. And there are people watching this right now who have been leaders already, and they either are doing this already, or I hope their curiosity is piqued and say, how can I actually lead outside? How can I be a light, an energy behind community improvement outside the perimeter of my own operation here? I'm convinced that they will. And I think just this notion of the opportunities that Kettering provides to students, there's some who are already very self-motivated, that's evident in Jeremiah and Chelsea. There's other for the first time who might just experience the joy of being involved in something like that, or meeting people that live in circumstances that they hadn't been involved with it before, and say, wow, people are people wherever you go, and neighbors are built to love neighbors. And if if you're not doing that, you're missing out on one of the great joys in life, I think.
Well, thanks. I think that's one of the unique things about this program is the impact it has not only on Flint, but a ripple effect on time as these kids grow up and they carry this kind of mission elsewhere. But Frederick, you're part of the other side of this equation. You're probably meeting students when this happened. You may not have known as many early on, but now you're interacting with them. Tell us a little bit about your interaction with students, Kettering people, this program, and maybe talk about some specifics. I'm thinking in particular of the Grand Traverse Corner and some specifics about what that was and what it became. But start with telling us about the interaction with other people like students.
Well, I'll tell you what, fortunately enough, I like the way that the students are being prepared to interact with inside the community. I know several years ago, Jack approached me if I needed some help around my house. I said, sure, I've got a project, which means that I wanted to have some painting done. Okay. And fortunately enough, the students came down here and I provided them with lunch. But it gave me an opportunity just to sit down with them because they were, from different parts of the country, and just allow them to know that this community is growing. It's changing in front of our eyes. It's progressing, and they're part of that. So, just to have that interaction with the students, just to say this, look, we welcome you here. We appreciate you being here. Now, what can we do to support you mentally and spiritually that you're going to take this outside of here? Now, when it comes to the corner that there's a lovely park on it right now, it was a blighted area and the store wasn't up to par. It was, unfortunately, it caught a fire and they had to raise it. But Carriagetown Ministries came in. They took upon the responsibility at their own cost to convert that property from just an eyesore, which it really was, because at that time, the community in itself, did not have the resources to develop it. And Carriagetown Ministry came in and took charge of that property. They've transformed it. And as far as I know, one of these days it will be developed, but it is prime. It's a beautiful interchange at the crossroads in which this community is in right now.
Now, isn't that also the corner where there's a park on one side and Dallas, isn't there a Jimmy John's or a Little
Jimmy
Caesars?
John's, right? And Little Caesars Pizza. So this community is changed. It has changed. In fact, when the liquor store was removed, it took less than 48 hours for the whole atmosphere to change from a rowdy place, a place of, I would say high crime, and to a place of solace. And this is what so mesmerized me the most, that when that corner changed, the atmosphere and this whole community changed, and for the better. So I just want to take my hats off to Kettering for, jumping in feet first and to make those changes that were absolutely necessary.
And can somebody tell me about Atwood? That's a whole nother different type of thing. Atwood Stadium, many people know, was the sort of a long time stadium for games for Flint high schools and other events for many, many years. It had fallen into disrepair. Somebody tell me about that, because that's also not far from Grand Traverse, right down University Avenue.
So you're right. About 7 years ago or so, the city was going to mothball it, Tim, and they could no longer afford to keep the water on, keep the lights on. The turf was in bad need of repair. It was an old AstroTurf, 10, 15 years past its time. It was unsafe for our children of Flint to play sports on. And but Dr. McMahon raised his hand. The university raised his hand and said, "We'll take it. We'll do it. We'll get this back to a workable situation." Well, did we ever? And now we've put over $2 million into it, a brand new field, improved so many of the amenities there, opened it back up to I'll say the children of Flint, but also our students who get to take advantage of it. And I hope you guys have been inside and played or done some activities in there, but because now it's accessible for not only football, but lacrosse And soccer, we've attracted a professional soccer team, semi-professional soccer team that won the national championship just last year, which we're super proud of. And the stadium itself, which has an 11,000 seating capacity, it's the 7th largest collegiately owned stadium in the state of Michigan. And Tim, we don't even have a football team. What were we thinking? Except, and I know Jeremiah and Chelsea are listening, it was the right thing to do for the community. And it's just a nice example of what the university is doing, and makes me so pleased with their approach at helping revitalize the community. And we've had crowds in there now, thousands of people, wonderful participation, and just it's been a real positive thing in the heart of the University Avenue corridor.
If I'm not mistaken, that's still owned by the city. It's not a Kettering stadium, is it? Or is Kettering?
Actually, it is Kettering's. Yep.
Kettering owns it.
They handed over the deed over because they said we can't even do anything with it. Cool. And and with that, we take the other side of that coin is, though, that we pledged to make sure that we keep it available to the community for community events. We pledged we wouldn't start a football team. Okay, well, we didn't pledge that, but that would be as obvious because we just don't want that. We're so focused on the academic and on the work experience that our students get.
Well, Kettering did have a football team, which a lot of people don't know, until the Depression, from about 1926 to 1932. So those T-shirts that are so popular that say undefeated since 1919.
Don't crush my heart.
They're incorrect.
Don't crush my heart.
There was quite a team. Dallas, tell me a little bit about other people involved, other organizations involved, and is there an interaction between some of your residents and students and other organizations? How has that all been working?
Yeah, first off, our residents have worked on projects with their students and their students with our residents, and we've had Kettering students as interns at Carriagetown or work study students. We have a cooperative van that Jack and his staff went out and got a grant and helped purchase, and it says University Avenue Corridor and Carriagetown Ministries, and we share that on projects. So students use that and our residents use it, and it gets used all the time. But if you imagine again that wheel with spokes with Kettering at the center and the whole thing being the University Avenue Corridor, you have Hurley Medical Center, an old, long-established great medical center, teaching hospital. They're an important part of it. McLaren Hospital, University of Michigan, Flint. These are all anchor parts of the University Avenue corridor. And when we have our monthly meetings, they're all represented there. We have other organizations like Durant Turimont School and Easter Seals and Flint Children's Museum, Carriagetown Auto Repair Shop and Shelton's Auto Repair, two long-term businesses. And to their credit, Shelton handled their property a little bit like Fred and Odette did their property for many years. They were keeping their property beautiful and nice and maintained, while around it wasn't like that, right? So La Familia's a great little restaurant, and Vogt's Flower and Wolverine Auto Repair, Bump Shop. When we have our monthly meetings, people from all over the place. It's not unusual for us to have 60 people in a meeting. That's changed a little bit with COVID. We've gone to some Zoom meetings, but everybody's anxious to get back together and we break bread together. One thing I'll mention real quickly, Tim, is that when we started the University Avenue Corridor Coalition, we committed not to have officers, not to have a charter, not to have any of that stuff that can bog you down in administrivia. We just decided that we're going to meet, we're going to celebrate successes, we're going to have announcements, we're going to have speakers, we're going to have lunch, right? And then we're going to share where we need help or where we can help. And that's proven invaluable. And then some of us meet every week on Tuesday mornings for coffee at Einstein's right across the street from Kettering University on their campus that they created to keep things moving forward at a steady pace, to keep progress moving. And everybody who comes to that monthly meeting hears often that, hey, we're meeting there on Tuesdays. Anybody who wants to show up can show up. But We don't have any minutes that keeps track of what we've done. We don't have any of that stuff. We do have a social media presence, but it's just neighbors being neighbors. And there are others who I won't take time to mention today who are just as valuable to the enterprise as the ones I've mentioned.
I've always been impressed with the Einsteins because that was also a problematic corner at one point in time, right across from the university, as I understand it. Jack, is that correct?
Yeah.
And the idea of not only putting in an Einstein's, but you all invited a police substation to go in there. And I can't think of a better way to sort of slow down crime than put a police substation on a bad corner.
Right.
But that's a great little corner, a great little place. But I'm impressed by the way that this is process as much as product. Yes, Flint is being transformed. The neighborhoods are transformed, but it's also people in the process, and students and your residents and the people who live like you, Frederick, in the community are all working together. So the process is pretty good. I have one quick question for either one of you, Chelsea or Jeremiah. When you were, and I know you're doing different things at different times, but when you were involved, the weeks or the time that you were involved on working on a house or working on part of this project, what kind of, did you go daily? Were you there every day? Were you there 3 hours a week? Did it last for a month, 2 months, a term? Tell me a little bit about how your involvement was working physically on these projects.
So say if I'm taking it.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so it really just depended on the project. A lot of these were very early Saturday mornings during our school terms, and or just sporadic times when we were contacted. Working with one of the organizations within the school, OMSA, the Office of Student Multicultural Affairs, they gave us a lot of projects. The time, it would be more of the elapsed time. It would normally take from like 3 to 5 hours is like what the normal time was. But it really just depended on really what the need was that was being asked of the Flint community. And we just tried our best to meet that despite like our obligations as students.
Well, that's interesting because, I mean, I think we can all relate to having been students and how valuable your time is, and to put in that time is a terrific thing. I want to begin to tie up here because we could talk for hours on this, but I want to go over to Frederick, because I know you spoke kind of eloquently last time we spoke, Frederick, on sort of the social meaning of this in terms of what it's meant for the young people in your neighborhood and what they can envision by living in a different sort of world than they would have been living in 10 years ago. And tell me a little bit about that.
Sure. I encourage family. And what I enjoy the most is seeing children running and playing and going up and down the sidewalks on their scooters. And one thing that I enjoyed the most, especially when I moved here initially, there's not as many children here as it was, but I enjoyed the fact that children that play means the area itself is safe. But yet, what the biggest change that I've seen happen down here, besides, the new businesses, is the presence of the police down here from Kettering. It is wonderful to know them by name, or to say, hey, how's it going down here today? Everything is fine. But what I would like to see more of is the incorporation of families themselves, okay, with children, because I love to hear children play. And that's what I'm looking forward to.
Well, tell me also, Dallas or Jack or anybody, where's this going in the future? There's been so much transformed. It's a beautiful place, which is it's wonderful, and the sidewalks are not broken and cracked. There's lighting, there's stores, there's activity, there's kids skateboarding, running up and down the neighborhood. People love to walk to town, walk to and from Jimmy John's, walk along the river. What's to be done in the future? What's next? Where we have this conversation in 10 years and talk about the last 10 years, what will we be talking about?
You want me to go first, Jack?
Sure.
So I'll take a second. You know, one of the things we're all trying to do is get through the pandemic. And when the pandemic feels like we can all meet together, we are all anxiously waiting to where we can meet and break bread together again. That's one thing. The other thing is we hope that the breaking of bread together includes the conversation, and new people who come in will be energized and carry on when some of the rest of us maybe have moved on to something else, right? But in order to do that, the thing that you do, the mission you do, has to have life. And I think that the decision initially just to make the University Avenue Corridor Coalition a meeting of neighbors celebrating and working together was probably the most important act of accidental genius we experienced together.
I'd agree with you, Dallas. We do still have a lot of work to do.
That's true.
But I would predict, I'd be so bold as to say, economic development is and investment in the corridor is coming.
Yes.
Rick, to your point about children and families, I bet dollars to donuts, as they say, that we're going to have development in that arena more and more along the corridor. And I say that with confidence because the developers and the planners are circling around us, not like buzzards, but like, I don't know, what's a more positive analogy? I don't know, but they're surrounding us. They're looking, they're turning over rocks. They're looking at properties at along the corridor as that next piece of economic, positivity that's going on in the city. Downtown Flint is as healthy as it's ever been. And we've got, I know, a lot of momentum going. We've already added dozens of businesses along the corridor just in the time frame we've been talking about here the last 8 years. And I just am confident that next to Hurley Hospital, next to the Good Beans Cafe, next to a number of different specific, highly desirable properties, we're going to see continued growth. And it's going to change us. And the good news is we've laid the groundwork for a really good plan I'm going to make one biblical analogy, which is a little bit of John the Baptist here. I believe that we are laying the way for something greater. And that's what I like to say is our message. Something greater is coming, and we've got to lay the groundwork. Yeah,
I agree.
Amen.
Yeah, I agree.
Amen. Yeah, and we got to keep our lamps trimmed and burning to be sure, but we also got to make sure we're preparing the way. Prepare the way.
Because you don't know who you're waving at sometimes when they pass by. Okay, you really don't know.
Yeah, right.
But it's good to they wave back, and I said that's good because they will come back.
Yeah. Well, this is our opportunity. We've got probably a lot of Kettering alumni all over the country, maybe the world. Hopefully other people get to see this. We've talked about the community. We've talked about the organizations. We've talked about the educational element and how this is such an unusual thing to be happening, but the university with a homeless shelter, with a lot of people making this happen. We've talked about Atwood and Grand Traverse. Is there anything that anybody wants to throw in that we haven't touched on, either a specific aspect of the revitalization or anything else?
I sure do. Let me go ahead on and throw this in. The elementary schools and also the preschools, okay, that are just here. These are top-notch facilities. And what's so unique about it is that they are in the shadows of a great university, which means when children look outside of these windows, they'll say, one day I may go to one of these schools. And that's a positive note, that they're in such close proximity to a major, outstanding university that is world renowned.
We like to say
this too, on the educational theme. I mean, University Avenue Corridor in the city's master plan is in the educational institutional corridor and recreational. That's what we want, that kind of life, that kind of development. But one of the connectors is, for example, Dr. McMahon, the visionary at Kettering, including everybody in the energy and finding people, not reaching out and owning other people's achievements, but inviting them in. And, you know, Kettering University is the place that has allowed a homeless shelter to have their annual banquet at Kettering. And not only that, but right. he attends. And just that kind of leadership it's really cool. And if the feeling, you know, and the appreciation can come through to anybody listening to that, I hope it does.
Well, Chelsea, you came in with obviously a heart for community service to begin with. You didn't learn this at Kettering, but do you see yourself taking this attitude, this activity, this spirit on in your future?
Most definitely. I feel like it's only right. It's like it's the least that I can do, and I feel like it's the least students can do when they come to Kettering and be a part of like the Flint community for the 3.5 to 5 years that they're at Kettering for. I feel like it's like a part of your civic duty to do so. So most definitely.
Well, I thank you all. Jack, thank you for your time and all your work on behalf of the university on helping spear this project. And thank you for your help in pulling this together today. Eric, down there, appreciate it. And all of you all I know you all got busy schedules, students, and Frederick and Dallas. Thank you so much for sharing this extraordinary effort with the broader community of Kettering and Flint virtually. Thank you very much. Thank you for listening. Join us again for interviews and discussions with Kettering newsmakers and innovators. This is Tim Noonan.